Here we found a curious bay with mountain walls of stone to left and right, and reaching far inland, a narrow entrance opening from the sea where cliffs converge as if to touch and close.
This description from Book 10 of the Odyssey corresponds so well to this spot that it's thought to have been the source of Homer's inspiration. This ria is 150 meters wide and commonly known here as the bottleneck. It reaches for almost 2 kilometers into the southern tip of Corsica and leads to the port of Bonifacio.
Bonifacio is an extraordinary spot. Its marine, an incredibly well-sheltered natural port, is even more remarkable than that at Calvi, and its upper city is nestled behind protective ramparts. Perched high on a formidable promontory, the citadel encloses an entire portion of the peninsula. It is located on the site of an ancient city and built by the Genoese in the 13th century.
The city is thought to be named after Boniface, Marquis of Tuscany, who is said to have founded the city in the 9th century. Before this time, the spot was called Giola and a haven for pirates. Sailing from the bottleneck, we're only 12 kilometers from the large neighboring island of Sardinia. The little Corsican town gives its name to these straits, which are called the Inlets of Bonifacio.
One has the best view of this extraordinary sight from the sea. While the rest of the island is primarily composed of crystalline rock, the plateau of Bonifacio is over 120 meters thick and composed of horizontal layers of limestone.
The cliffs are 65 meters high. At the base, the sea has eroded away the extremely friable limestone. This lone, gigantic rock, a result of the process of erosion, is paradoxically known as the grain of sand.
The sea is not the only force that sculpts the cliffs. These spectacular stairs were carved directly into the cliff face. They are called the Stairs of the King of Aragon. With 187 steps, they link the upper city to the sea. According to legend, they were carved in a single night during the siege of 1420.
Despite the erosion caused by the sea and the fact that the rock mass is slowly diminishing, these multi-story homes were built right over the cliff face.
On the far white mountain, one sees a group of homes lying like an even whiter spot. They resemble wild birds' nests hanging so on the rock.
The homes of Bonifacio fascinated writer Guy de Maupassant. How can one resist the spectacular charms of this little city perched high on the cliffs?
The Mediterranean is not the only place one can appreciate this spectacular contrast of limestone cliffs and marvelous seas. 1,500 kilometers to the north, the eastern shore of the little island of Mön suddenly drops away. The cliffs of Mön stretch for almost 8 kilometers, creating a stunning white backdrop for the turquoise waters of the Baltic Sea.
Rising about 100 meters out of the sea, these cliffs are part of a very ancient chalk deposited, formed 75 million years ago at the bottom of the deep, calm sea that covered Denmark at that time. Later, movement in the Earth's crust lifted the chalk deposit from the sea floor, and it underwent glacial erosion.
Today, the sea eats away at the chalk constantly. Erosion is spectacular. In 1905, 1914, 1952 and 1980, huge portions of the cliff face collapsed into the sea. On January 13th, 1988, Sommerspiret, the most famous spot on the huge natural wall, crumbled away and disappeared forever.
The cliffs are receding. The shoreline is fringed by a beautiful flint cliff polished by the waves. Overhead, a forest of beech trees grows up to the very edge of the cliff.
The coastline of this little 216 square kilometer island is not formed only of cliffs. Beautiful sand beaches and long ranges of dunes can be found on the Baltic shores.
The tides in the Baltic Sea are weak, and the seawater contains relatively little salt because the many rivers that drain into the Baltic constantly replenish it with fresh water. This means it abounds in marine nutrients and plankton, and is a perfect environment for hundreds of species of fish. A local chronicle dating from 1326 reports that herring were so abundant around the island of Mön that you could fish with your bare hands.